On today's show, projecting greatness. Could this upcoming season be the season that Alex Ovechkin catches the great one?
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holtby. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Indeed. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/locked on. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about, is this going to be the season that Alex Ovechkin catches Wayne Gretzky? Listen, there's been more rumblings out there that many insiders, many people that know the sport the best, think that this could be the season that Alex Ovechkin catches Gretzky. I'll give you my thoughts a little bit later. We'll talk about Jakub Vrana and how he is making a case for himself to join the Capitals when the season starts, as he is skating with the veterans on the team. What does that all mean? And then a little bit later, we'll talk about how Braden Holtby has joined the Capitals yet again, and this time again as a coach. What is the long-term plans for Holtby with the Capitals? But just to get it going here, talking about Alex Ovechkin and trying to project greatness. Is this going to be the season that he catches Wayne Gretzky? I mean, you take a look at it. I'll in a little bit later in the segment, I'll tell you my thoughts, but it's going to be difficult for him. As we know, he is going to be 39 years old on the 17th, which is on Tuesday, and the start of the training camp is on the 19th on Thursday. And well, things don't get any easier the older you get. And you saw the struggles that Alex Ovechkin had last season, got off to his slowest start in the goal scoring department in his entire career. Many people were saying he's washed, that his best days were behind him. But after the All-Star break, he turned on the Jets and ended up scoring 31 goals. When to start the season, during his slow start, he was only projected to score 16. So it is interesting. You know, you take a look at it. We know that Alex Ovechkin has 2 years left on his contract. Will he, in fact, be able to catch Gretzky under this current contract? And, in fact, will he be able to catch him this season? There is a lot to ponder. And this is one of the pieces I was reading in the Daily Face-Off. They had an article about the potential of Alex Ovechkin catching Gretzky, and could it possibly be this season? Alex Ovechkin's journey to breaking the record, when considering the potential for Alex Ovechkin to break Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal record of 894, it's impossible not to marvel at the remarkable journey Ovechkin has been on. Less than a year ago, it seemed unlikely he would even come close to reaching such a monumental milestone. And it is interesting, isn't it, that this is a situation that's in flux. Some people thought that he was going to be able to catch him last season, and for whatever reason, I guess we'll never know why he got off to that slow start. Was it equipment? Was it, him mourning a loss in his life? Was it him being out of shape? I guess we don't know. But the thing that we know for sure is the Capitals are all in on Ovechkin catching Gretzky. I know they want to win another cup, but I think right now the importance is on him catching Gretzky while he is under contract, and why he still is healthy enough to do it. However, Ovechkin's resurgence during the latter half of the previous season, where he scored an impressive 23 goals in 36 games, has catapulted him to within striking distance of the record. So Gretzky, 894. So Ovechkin needs 41 to catch him and 42 to pass him. So you're asking me, how many goals do I think Alex Ovechkin is going to score this upcoming season? Is he going to be able to do what he did so many years ago and score a bunch of goals? Is he going to be able to score 65 goals like he did in 07, 08? Is he going to be able to score 53 goals like he did in 14, 15? I think the days of him scoring 50 or 60 goals per season is behind him. So he scored 31 goals last season with a slow start. What is my projection? I see him scoring 35 goals. That's where I'm at. I still think that there are going to be some hiccups. I think that Pierre-Luc Dubois on paper can be the guy to get him going in the right direction, but I'm not 100% sold that is going to be a seamless transition. And also, one of the things that's been more apparent is that he is that Russian machine that never breaks, but he's shown fallibility. He has shown weakness that I think at some point this upcoming season that he will face some sort of injury that will sideline him. I don't think he's going to have a horrible season. I see him scoring 35 goals. Now, listen, I would love to be wrong. I would love for him to catch Gretzky this upcoming season, but I was on a podcast here just yesterday, and they put the screws to me and said, Dan, how many goals do you think he's going to score? That was my thought. I've been thinking about it for a while. I think he's going to show a small improvement, but I still think that, Father Time is undefeated and all of those kind of things. And I still think he can score goals on a regular basis, but I think the days of scoring 50, 60 goals, those are in the rearview mirror. But there's the people that talk about this, like the Daily Face-Off. They thought that it's possible that he could do it. And I guess anything is possible. If they can catch lightning in a bottle, say, PLD and Alex Ovechkin just get off to this great start. Hey, I would love for that to happen. I'm just not totally sold that is going to be the case. But he has a lot of admiration from his peers, even Sidney Crosby, who, they're arch enemies oftentimes. I think there is a mutual admiration between the both of those players as they have gone into battle many times. And it's interesting that even though he's been in the league and even though he's ruffled a lot of feathers in his time in the NHL, he still gets a lot of praise. His extraordinary performance has drawn admiration and praise from fellow players and NHL officials alike. Longtime teammate John Carlson expressed his amazement at Ovechkin's proximity to the record, emphasizing the incredible nature of the achievement. Similarly, Sidney Crosby, a rival from the Pens, acknowledged Ovechkin's incredible feat and expressed gratitude for being a part of this historic era in hockey. And it's, one of the things that I don't think Ovechkin set out to do, that as a young man, I don't think he said, I'm going to catch Wayne Gretzky. I'm going to do it. It's just he's been that kind of player for his entire career. And if it was just that would still be something quite wonderful. But it's all the other records that he's broke on the way there. When he finally hangs up the skates for the last time, he will definitely be revered as one of the best, if not the best, to ever do it. I know we're talking goal scoring and all those kind of things, but I think it's even more than that. Just the well-rounded nature of his play in total, I think it's something to kind of stand in awe of. And, I think oftentimes as Capitals fans, we take it a little bit for granted, but if there was a player like Ovechkin on another team, you might think to yourself, wow, that guy really gets it done. I think as Caps fans, we're just lucky that he plays on our team, and it's really fun to watch him knock down those goals one after the other each and every season. But talking about the anticipation for the upcoming season, and I'm very excited about it as the formal start of training camp is next Thursday. We see if all these shiny new toys live up to expectations. What kind of season is Ovechkin going to have? As I've always said, as Alex Ovechkin goes, so go the Capitals. There is much anticipation surrounding whether Ovechkin will manage to surpass Gretzky's record in the upcoming season. While his scoring pace in the first half of the 23-24 season may not be sufficient, his remarkable finish to the previous season suggests that he could easily achieve this milestone in 24-25. And the Daily Face-Off writer here was saying that he thought that it could be attainable in March or April. So take a look at the calendar, see what games are being played in March and April. There is a possibility that Alex Ovechkin could very well knock down that target. Again, my thoughts on it, it's not going to be this season. It'll be the following season. But a lot of the insiders, they're thinking it is possible, and a lot of people are shooting for March or April. The NHL is prepared to celebrate this historic achievement with enthusiasm, acknowledging Ovechkin's significant contribution to the game and stressing that his nationality should not diminish the magnitude of this accomplishment. We've seen that. I don't need to go into that, but let's just judge Alex Ovechkin, the greatness on what he's accomplished for your Washington Capitals. Quite something, and something that I'm very proud to see in real time. This is not some archival footage. This isn't Dan popping in a VCR tape and, said this is how great he was many years ago. This is in real time. And if we're all lucky enough, we will be able to witness it happen in our lifetime. We will witness it, whether we're at the game or watching it on television or in replay. Quite something, and something to let not wash over you, to totally take in and realize the greatness of Alex Ovechkin. So talking about to that potential timing of breaking the record, well, fans, they're eager to know when Ovechkin might break the record in the upcoming season. Various scenarios have been considered, taking into account different goal-scoring paces and the likelihood of Ovechkin missing a few games to his age. That factored into it for me. While it may be challenging to predict the precise game in which Ovechkin will make history, it is conceivable that it could happen within his final 15 games of the Capitals' schedule. That is what I'm talking about, that it is possible that he could do it potentially in March or April. And, it's going to be interesting to see if he does, in fact, get really close. You got to think that tickets are going to be outrageous. Everyone's going to want a ticket to see him, whether it's in Washington or outside of Washington, to be there, to witness history. That will be something that we'll be talking about just in general and, well, on this podcast for quite some time. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Jakub Vrana. I still have to kind of pinch myself that as a Capitals fan, I'm talking about Jakub Vrana back on this team, and he's poised to do some great things, but there are some players that stand in his way. Can he do it? I'll give you my thoughts straight ahead. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Thank you for making Locked On Capitals your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On NHL podcast. Locked On NHL provides you with a national perspective on all things NHL each and every day, with national experts and local insight on every team in the league. Available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Jakub Vrana, if you will, is poised to do great things. I think that it hasn't already been the formal start of camp, but he is impressing, and he is skating with the veterans on the team. So kind of shows you that I think some of the younger guys are put in a group as like, well, they're going to get their work in. And a lot of the veterans are being kind of separated as that these are going to be the guys on the team. And of course, I'm getting way ahead of myself as it is not the formal start of camp. But what we've seen thus far of Jakub Vrana on the ice has been impressive. How is it going to relate? How is it going to go once the rubber meets the road on the 19th? That is the question. How will he perform in the preseason could very well determine if he gets a sweater. And if, in fact, he is in the lineup, well, the tough question is who gets knocked out of there to accommodate that. But in any event, it's important not to have favorites. I talk about that all the time in the show, that ultimately I want, and I think as fans you should want, the most qualified person on the ice, regardless of who it is. Jakub Vrana, a first-round pick by the Capitals in 2014, is currently on a PTO for the team's training camp, despite facing challenges in recent years, including injuries, time in the NHL Players Assistance Program, and inconsistency in performance. Vrana has been showcasing promise during informal skates leading up to training camp. His impressive speed and scoring ability have caught the attention of the coaching staff, and that is what we loved about Jakub Vrana before. At the time when he was on the Capitals, so many years ago, he was the fastest skater on the team. I know that Ethan Frank is going to be the guy that is going to surpass him, but in any event, we're not necessarily talking just about speed here. But that is important, and he has impressed. And it's interesting that you can impress that much in front of the coaching staff when these skates are still, in quotes, informal. So I think it is edging more and more in that direction that he could potentially join the team. While the Capitals have limited roster spots available, Vrana's experience and talent could earn him a position as an extra forward at the NHL level, given his familiarity with the NHL and potential to contribute to the team's scoring depth. Vrana could be a valuable asset for the Caps this season. And, it's one of the things that I've talked about. Would he be willing to join the Hershey Bears if he had to? And I think he would. He played for some AHL teams over the last few years. I think, if he wants to look at it and be optimal, of course, he would want to be on the big team, of course. That was kind of his trajectory. That is where everyone had him figured to be. But it's not going to be easy, as there are quite a few players that stand in his way. However, Vrana will face tough competition during training camp. His performance will ultimately determine his fate with the team. If he doesn't secure a spot with the Caps, he could consider signing with the AHL Hershey Bears or exploring opportunities with other NHL teams. And it's one of the things that I think that at one point there was such high hopes for Jakub Vrana, not just for the Capitals, but in the NHL. And then he stumbled a little bit. He had some personal problems, and he's kind of in the position similar to some other players on the team, kind of like Pierre-Luc Dubois. Is this his last shot? I think he's getting closer to that. I think that if he does not make the team, or for some reason he gets cut from his professional tryout, I think that his future is a little bit more bleak. I think he would most likely have to accept a role in the AHL. If not, he could also pursue options overseas as well. But I think for him, he needs to make the most of his opportunities. He needs to make hay while the sun shines. And I'm ultimately pulling for him, even though I know I'm really not supposed to be doing that. Based on the current roster, there are limited openings this season. Pierre-Luc Dubois, Andrew Mangiapane, Brandon Duhaime, and Taylor Radish will be bolstering the forward lineup, joined by Vrana on a PTO. And that's just some of it. I still think that Sonny Milano is kind of on the bubble. I know that there were times last season that he was great, and I also know that there were times that he was not so great. And also, widen the lens, get a 30,000 view, get this thing way up in the air, is that Henrik Slapierre, Connor McMichael. I think they have solidified their spot on this team, but I still want to see more in order to fully gauge how great players are going to be. It's back-to-back seasons, not in a vacuum, not in an isolated incident. If you take a look at Charlie Lindgren, that's ultimately why they brought in Logan Thompson, is that what kind of players are going to rise to the challenge? I want to think that the players that are out there are going to be enough, but there's for quite a few of those players, there's a lot to prove. You take a look at Duhaime, Radish, I'm going to say Sonny Milano, there's a lot of players that need to prove that they're worthy of it. And also, I think that for some of the young players, they have not accumulated enough miles on their NHL odometer that they should take anything for granted. That is why I say this training camp is going to be one for the ages. And of course, keep it locked to Locked On Capitals, as I will have you guys covered the entire way. The training camp is set to open on September 19th, where Vrana will have the opportunity to showcase his skills and compete for a spot on the Capitals opening night roster. And I think that if you are a fan of Capitals nostalgia, then of course, somewhere inside your heart, you're kind of pulling for him like, wow, wouldn't that be a great story? As more and more of the players from 2018 are slowly peeling away, that not too many players from that magical season are on the roster anymore. So I know it's important not to live in the past. And ultimately, I do, as a matter of fact, want the most qualified person on the team. But it would just be a good story for a guy that lost his way a little bit to try to find a way on a team that he called home to start his career. That is why, at the end of the day, I'm kind of pulling for him. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Coach Holtby. What is going on with Holtby? Is there the possibility that he could be one of the coaches or a mentor on the team? Or what is his job in particular with the Caps? I'll discuss straight ahead. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate, well, it isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to recent Indeed surveys. So if you are involved in HR, say you're involved in the hiring and the firing, well, you need Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and support our show by saying you heard about it on the Locked On Capitals podcast. Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So if there's one player that kind of gives me a warm fuzzy about the past, it is Braden Holtby. Of course, the thing that always comes to mind is the save. Some people at the end of the day say that Holtz got lucky, but that's rather here nor there. He was a premier netminder for some truly great Capital seasons. Of course, we'll always remember the 2018 Stanley Cup win, and I think that is what forever endears him to Capitals fans. And it's not just that he's a great hockey player. He's a great man, a great person in general, a great human being who takes part in a lot of activities around Washington, special groups, those kind of things, that I think there is a fondness for him. But the question remains, is that we saw him earlier in the summer with the rookies, and now he's also at camp again. What is the long-term plan for Braden Holtby with the Capitals? Will he be a coach, a mentor? Think of Sean Doolittle on the Nationals, if you will, kind of a spot that was made for him. Or what is the long-term plan? It is an interesting question, and I would love it. I think that, of course, he in his prime was one of the best to ever do it. He learned under the tutelage of Mitch Korn, the goalie whisperer, if you will. And I think that he learned a lot of valuable lessons. And I think that if he could impart a lot of that knowledge onto some of the younger Capitals netminders, well, I think that is a win-win. So talking about Braden Holtby's mentorship at Washington Capitals rookie camp, Braden Holtby, of course, is that highly regarded goaltender, recently provided mentorship at the Washington Capitals rookie camp for the team's goaltending prospect. Assisted by Capitals development coach and former goalie Ole Kolzig, Holtby shared his expertise with three aspiring goaltenders, Garen Bjorklund, Seth Isley, and Colin McKenzie. Together, Holtby and Kolzig have an impressive combined total of 602 career NHL wins, positioning them as leaders in the goaltending statistical categories for the Capitals. So what better players, former players, to learn from then Holtby and Kolzig. I think a really good 1-2 punch. So it's going to be interesting to see. And they were kind of pressed. They asked the Capitals and they didn't get a response. I saw on Russian Machine Never Breaks that they did not get an answer about where he's going to fit in. Is this just something for training camp, or do the Capitals, in fact, have grander plans for him on this team? Talking about Holtby's role with the Caps at the camp, 3 forwards had the opportunity to train with the goaltenders under Holtby's guidance before the full session commenced. Although Holtby's official role within the team has not been disclosed, his involvement in the rookie camp follows his prior position as a guest goaltending coach during the Capitals development camp in July. So, you know what they say, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think maybe there's a little bit of fire here. It's going to be interesting to see how this materializes and what his official role will be with the team. I think that, you know, they liked what they saw earlier in the summer. He's back again. Where's this going to lead? It's going to be another exciting storyline to follow. Holtby's engagement with the Caps, despite not being listed on the Capitals staff directory, Holtby has been actively involved with the team since last year's training camp. And another guy that, kind of lost his way. If we want to reminisce here a little bit about the 2018 season, it was not just Holtby alone that got them the Stanley Cup. It was a Holtby-Grubauer tandem. Holtby faltered a little bit. Grubauer came in, and by the time that the Capitals really needed Holtby, he was good to go, and, well, the rest is a Capitals Cinderella story victory. After that, lost his way a little bit, went out to Vancouver, which was kind of a bust, then went to the Dallas Stars, and lost his way there. There was multiple goalies and just was never able to really find his way there, and ultimately injuries is what derailed him. Now, Braden Holtby has not formally retired, even though just considering the stuff that's going on here in his time away from being a goalie, I don't think that that's a possible scenario. But it's interesting that you take a look at Kolzig, you take a look at Holtby, 2 beloved netminders in the Capitals organization. That could be a really great 1-2 punch. Of course, let's talk about Holtby's career, though not officially retiring. Holtby's most recent season with the Dallas Stars in 21-22 is just what we all remember. And, you take a look at his record of .299, 143, and 50. Wins in 513 appearances. He also possesses noteworthy career statistics, a 2.59 goals against average and a .915 save percentage and 35 shutouts. Holtby, of course, is famous for his remarkable diving stick save during Game 2 of the 2018 Stanley Cup Finals, commonly referred to as quote-unquote the save. So it's interesting to see how this all materializes and to see if he, in fact, will join the Capitals in an official capacity as some sort of coach or mentor. I guess it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Listen, I want to thank you once again for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals and making it your first listen of the day. Now, for your second listen, go find Locked On NHL, where the local experts are keeping you updated daily on all the biggest storylines ahead of the 2025 season. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And a bit of a programming note here, as the show will be going back to 5 days a week starting next week. So if you are a fan of Locked On Capitals, or if you're new to the show, make sure and subscribe or follow on your podcatcher of choice or on YouTube. And also, something we're relaunching here is the Locked On Capitals Insiders, where I send you direct messages about how the Capitals will be, or how they're going to, be playing, what kind of lineups, special information from camps, all those kind of things. Just follow the link in the show description on subtext so you can be in the know when it comes to the Capitals. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.